So we're gonna, make this available for replay. So just to kick us off, Leisa, how about you introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are and what your business is all about.
So my name is Leisa Peterson, and I started a company a couple years ago called Wealth Clinic. The focus of the business is to teach people how to move beyond the blocks that are holding us back from creating more money in our life, and also joy and freedom and all the things that I think we associate with having more money. But I do that really in a way that is very heart-centered. And so it is about making money. I've eventually, when I first started, I didn't know it, but I eventually started coaching businesses because they were the ones who seemed to really put the stuff that I'm teaching to practice. There's so many opportunities as a business owner to notice where you get stuck. It could be something as simple as, I never want to call my clients who are late in paying me, okay, there's a money block. It's really hard for me to do that. And if that's hard for you to do, then you're probably not going to be making as much money as you should be making in your business. So I am like a squirrel. I kind of go looking for where are the problems when it comes to money. And we use those experiences to break free of those blocks and then move on through so that the business is more successful.
Yes, amazing, amazing. And so I want everyone to hear your story about how you started Wealth Clinic. We'll definitely dive into the blocks, and I definitely want to give people some practical advice that they can take away about, how they can start uncovering these blocks.
Yeah.
But first, I would love for everyone to hear about what your motivation was and what was the kind of instigating event in starting your company, Wealth Clinic.
Yeah, there were two things. One was I was a financial advisor. I've worked in financial services for 25 years, and I have also always been an empath, so I feel people and kind of their pain. And it was a weird business for me to be in as somebody helping people with money, and then feeling that it got them really uncomfortable. And so one of the instigators was that I made this decision to start asking people if they would sit down and talk to me about their money back stories. And every time I did that, people would go on to making big changes in their lives. And I thought, well, I don't even know what I'm doing. And people are just by having this conversation that nobody's ever allowed to talk about, that it would free them and they would start to make changes. So I had this great idea. I totally wanted to start a business around it, but I was scared to death. And I just couldn't create the nerve to walk away from my career. And unfortunately, I was in my doctor's office in December of 2013 in Reno, Nevada, and I was sitting in the lobby, and a man walked into the doctor's office and said to me and to the other people in the lobby that you might want to leave now. And he pulled out a very large gun. And I thought, what is he doing? This is so weird. I thought he was maybe a police officer, but he immediately started moving really fast to the back of the office. And, I tried to get out of the building going the other direction, but this man went forward, and a receptionist tried to stop him. And we all kind of figured out that he had, bad intentions. And so unfortunately, he found his doctor. There was sort of an act of vengeance, and my doctor got involved, and he shot his doctor. He shot a patient, and then he shot and killed my doctor, and eventually shot and killed himself. And while all of this horrific stuff was happening, I got stuck in an elevator and kind of had this time where we weren't sure if he was coming around the corner. And it was kind of like, if I live through this experience, which there's a good chance I'm not going home, then I'm going to do something different. I know that this is it was like a realization that I wasn't living my life on purpose. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And that started when I got home, and kind of the aftermath and the PTSD and all the things that you go through when I was able to clear through that, I realized that it was time, that was it. Like I wasn't going to take any more excuses, and I was going to start this company. So it took me a few months to get it going.
Wow. Wow. It's just an amazing story of transforming your suffering into something greater to serve the world. And I really appreciate you sharing all of that information. It's not easy to go back and relive that experience. And I do remember you telling me about it. For everyone listening, Leisa and I have been friends for a very long time, probably over a decade now, close to a decade. And we met in a meditation group in the Bay Area. And so I've known Leisa when she was working in the financial industry. And I had heard when you wanted to go out and start your own business, and then hearing about this event, it's just, that's something that's where it seems like you hit a crossroads,
Yeah.
to really examine how you're living your life. And so I just first of all want to commend you for the way that you've gone on to create this really powerful business and helping so many people, looking at what you've been able to do within the last couple years. So can you tell us what you are interested in doing with your clients and helping them identify their money patterns?
Yeah, it's fun because this conversation is happening right in the middle of this kind of 2-week sprint that I'm engaged in. And so I feel like I can speak firsthand. I went out to the list of people that I have, on my email list and some groups that I'm a part of. And I said that I would do these 20-minute laser coaching sessions. Most of the time, the work that I do is pretty deep, and it's like an hour and a half are the sessions that I do with people around the money stuff. So I was like, I'm not even sure I can do this in 20 minutes, but I am willing to try. So I put this offer out that I would have these 20-minute sessions, and I'm 3 days into it, and it's every single conversation is like life-changing for the people involved. And what I'm doing is I asked people to say to me, what is your biggest challenge with money? Like, what is it? Is it, not showing up? Are you noticing patterns in your life? Share one thing, because that's all we have time for. And I'm just really clear when we get on the phone that money is often tied into a lot of shame and guilt and greed and fear of greed and selfishness. Like it's intertwined into our ego, and we have a really hard time doing the work. And so I knew I needed a way to quickly help people feel comfortable with me and be able to share. And so I explained that, it's almost like going into a closet where there are going to be plenty of things in your closet that you love, that are totally serving you, that you enjoy wearing. But there's going to be a few things in the closet that are out of style. They no longer serve you. They may be torn, it's time to go. And so if we can look at our own money story as just one small part of the big picture, then it's easier for me and the other person to work together to go into the closet to find out what is ready to go. And then we're working together, and it's not like antagonistic, because believe me, in the beginning, like I think I brought out some antagonistic things in people, because I just didn't know what I was doing. I was wanting to help, but I didn't understand that it kind of, it was like really pokey and really uncomfortable for people. So I needed to make it easier. So once we're in agreement that we're going in the closet together, then it's so simple. It's like, okay, so get grounded, because we need to ground when we're talking about money, and take some nice deep breaths, and then just share a little bit more. And I mean, this is probably where my superpower comes out, is because I've been around money for so long, and I see these patterns, and I'm an intuitive. I just can quickly feel the energy of what's going wrong. And most of the time, it's in the exact opposite place of where people think. Like they skip by it. and then they tell their story. And then I'm like, okay, let's go back to this one thing. And before you know it, it's kind of like pulling the thread out of the ball of yarn. It loosens everything else up. And so I use tapping, I use mindfulness, I use all kinds of different strategies. But in these short appointments, EFT tapping is really, really great.
Yes. Wow. Wow. That is just incredible. Gosh, I have so many questions that came up as you were saying that. I wonder, I think the first question, if you're willing to, I'd like to know like a specific example of, you kind of prodding someone and saying, hey, let's actually look at what you just skimmed over. Is there some specific example you might be able to share with, of course, no names attached?
Yeah, of course. No names, nothing like that. I'm just kind of thinking about, because there's some trends in kind of what I see a lot of. Sure. So there's a tendency a lot of times for women to overgive, like give, and then that's too bright. Sorry. Give so much and be so used to being in the giving spot that they don't notice that they're actually giving up all their own wishes and desires. And at one point or another in their life, they lose contact with what it is that we really want. We're so focused on giving that we've lost our connection with our inner voice. We've lost our connection with our innermost desires. And so what will happen is, in the case of somebody telling me a story where they're not able to save money because they find themselves helping others when they call. So parents are guilty of this. Like the kid comes in and says, well, I need this. And then you give them the money for that. And then another kid comes and you give them the money for that. And then maybe your husband comes in and you give him the money. And all of a sudden you realize that the thing that you were sort of planning around, or a dream, or maybe a vacation or something, there's no money to support that because you couldn't say no in the moment. And so I'm looking for, why are you not able to say no? What's going on there? And for each person, it's different. Does that help explain, or do you want to go deeper than that?
Oh yeah, that just sounds like we're just touching on, how to uncover these money blocks. And I think that, as you said, these patterns are so deep rooted. I think now might be a good time to talk about, as you say on your website, how these money patterns are buried in the subconscious. And so it really just, anytime we're dealing with money, it's affecting every area of our life. So can you talk a bit about how this is working on the how this is playing out, our money story on the subconscious level?
Yeah. Most of the stuff is, okay, there's an echo. Can you hear the echo? Or is that just me?
No, it's not too bad. It's okay.
Weird. So what's said, the research says that by the time we're age 7, maybe 8, our money personality is formed. And so all the things that have happened in our really young years are the things that have kind of set us on a course with money. And that is a good clue. Now, many times people don't actually remember the things that happened before that. But what does happen is, if we create beliefs early on in life about anything, so it may be that, something as simple as money is bad, money is evil, money is, for greedy people. And what will happen is that belief is oftentimes under the surface. We don't even know that we have it. Nobody's ever said it in exactly that term to us. We just feel it. When we see greedy people, they're really annoying to us. Like, if we see somebody really wealthy, we think maybe they're greedy and they've done bad things to get it, or they're evil because they have a lot of money. That's how it shows up. But we don't know why we think that. We think everybody thinks that same way. So that's how it's working under the surface. But what I found is whatever we resist in life is the thing that keeps persisting. So it keeps showing up. So I don't necessarily need to work with somebody when they were 4. I can take other situations, maybe at 9 or 10, sometimes we get into that, where we're looking at what happened, in that age that caused someone to, I work with one client and it's been an issue of trust, and she shoplifted when she was, in those formative years, and her parents found out about it. And it was like, it just totally affected her way of seeing the world, because she thought, I must not be trustworthy. And then when we live our lives feeling deep inside that we're not trustworthy, it's amazing because people will keep showing up to remind us of that belief that we're right, that because our belief system says, well, prove that I'm right, prove that I'm right, instead of what you want, which is prove that I'm wrong. Like nobody likes to be proved wrong, right? So we want to support our beliefs, even if they're totally sucking us, dry. Nobody wants to feel like they're not, that they're not trustworthy. So it's kind of amazing because it's oftentimes the opposite. And that's what makes it hard sometimes for people to figure it out themselves. Any of that makes sense?
It does. And that's exactly what I was thinking is, we're walking around unconscious that we even have these negative beliefs. And, then things keep happening and we start to feel like a victim, not really understanding that it is all created by our mind. But undoing those patterns, it's very difficult from my understanding to do that in a vacuum. You have to have a coach like yourself to really be able to pick it apart and to help, you see it as an outsider does. And so I love that you're integrating, the alternative methods like the tapping and the mindfulness. Can you talk a little bit about how, as your background in finance, how did you decide to integrate this spirituality or mindfulness into wealth coaching?
So when I first started the business, I thought it was just going to be group education calls. I didn't think of myself as a coach because I hadn't been one. But after a while, people started asking me, can you, help me one-on-one with something? And at first I was like, oh no, I don't know what to do. But I worked up the nerve and, as many of us know, we'll just do things for free because we're like, I don't know how it's going to go. So it was really very holistic. It was very much from the heart. It was in those initial meetings that I started to see that I was able to hear things that people weren't hearing themselves, or feel things that other people couldn't feel. And it's such a beautiful experience because I wouldn't be here in front of you unless I was getting incredible feedback from my clients and what's happening for them. So it's very holistic in that the more you do and the more success you have, I think the better you become as a coach in helping people because you're confident. And when you're listening to an inner voice in the beginning, it seems so weird that you would know something about people, that you really shouldn't have any reason to know. And so you think, well, if I say that, they're going to think I'm crazy, so I finally started saying it. And every time people were like, how do you know that? And so like, okay, I don't know how I know it, but I just know that people tell me it works really well when I speak my truth, I speak what's coming up. And then we get to business really quickly, right? We get to the issues, we're able to work through them. And it's always about dealing with resistance. Like I take on the heavy lifting because I don't have time. Like nobody's got time to have it take, this was the challenge with meditation. Meditation is awesome for learning how to control your mind, right? It's very powerful, but it does take many years, at least for me, many years to become what I would consider a decent meditator. And I knew that meditation couldn't be the only thing that I did to help people.
Wow. And I would add that, this is just entirely my personal take, but I think there's other meditators who might share this opinion that, the money issues as we have been discussing, are just so deeply rooted that really uncovering them through meditation is very hard to do on your own. And I find that other methods, of course, mindfulness is an aspect of meditation. So I see that you've, really taken on the mindfulness part of meditation. I wonder, for people who aren't familiar with mindfulness, would you mind just giving them an overview, a kind of definition of that and how it's applied to your coaching?
Yeah, sure. So the way I look at it is really being in the present moment with your money, and not just responding out of habit, not just responding out of conditioning, but being able to stand in a position of, I know what I'm doing. I'm making a conscious decision to do this, even if it's not, financially healthy. I know what I'm doing and I'm going to do it, is much better than just doing something out of habit. And I always point to this story where I had a huge aha moment where I was in the line at the grocery store with my son, and he's like, "Mom, will you buy this candy bar?" And I'm like, "No, we can't." Like, I laugh when I say this now. I'm like, "No, we can't afford it." And he looked at me and he was like, "You just bought a new car." He was like 6 years old, and he's like, "You just bought a new car and you can't afford this candy bar?" And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I saying? Like, it was not mindful. It was just something my mom had told me, and I kept saying it, and it wasn't true. So, it makes me a liar, and my son called me on it, and I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. But we do that kind of stuff all the time with money.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Being present.
Being present and understanding when it's time to change, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, because I think with mindfulness, over the longer journey, and why I'm here and teaching it now, is that when you start paying attention to your thoughts, in the beginning, your thoughts are just controlling you. But over time, you start to take control of your thoughts. And if you don't want to allow your thoughts to go down that negative path, then you have the ability to say, I'm doing this and it's not helping me. It's making me feel terrible when I think about these things. I'm going to move my mind over here, and I'm going to focus on something that I love and that brings me great joy. And I don't know how you learn how to do that outside of meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. It's just so powerful, and I think so needed in the world in terms of integrating mindfulness with money, because there's so many places you can go for quote unquote wealth or investing advice, but no one's really showing us how do we break these destructive patterns.
Yeah, I feel like it's my life's work. I feel like there's plenty of stuff to keep me busy, and because every day I hear of a new sort of story or a new way that it's kind of operating for someone. And I think my goal in this book that I'm writing, and part of this 2-week sprint, was to talk to as many people as possible and use those stories to create classes and books, because I think people are really interested in, like, what are the most common ways that I might get stuck, since it's kind of hard for me to figure it out on my own. If I could take a class and I could kind of dive into some of those common tendencies, my guess is, from what I've seen, is even though it might not be at the top of our pain point, we still all probably touch on every one of those kind of aspects at one point or another in our lives.
Wow. Amazing. And so we'll just end with one question, and then we'll open it up to anyone who wants to call in. So those of you listening, we do want to give you an opportunity to ask Leisa questions. We'll take a couple. So I just want to end with my last question, which is, what does wealth mean to you? What is your definition of wealth? Because I know you have a bit of an alternative definition.
So wealth to me, I mean, first and foremost, it's the bridge between the inner and the outer experience. And that if those aren't operating in parallel paths or similar ways, then you're out of balance. So you have lots of money, but you're really, really sad inside. That's not wealth to me. Wealth, without question, isn't just the inner either. And I think that's been my journey, is just like, I went on this intense spiritual journey for, 16 years now. And I feel like I accomplished a lot of understanding of the world and of different religions and of my own self-discovery, which to me has been incredible, because I think it starts with that inner peace, this piece of self-love and self-acceptance and appreciation. And then when you go out and you create wealth from that place of understanding, that's when life gets really, really cool, because it's coming from just this beautiful place of passion and love, and it's kind of unstoppable, really.
Woohoo! We need more people like that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to unlock the seat here. If anyone wants to join us, feel free to call in.
Yeah, please ask questions.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from you.
An opportunity to, get a little advice on anything you're itching to know about. So I know people are shy.
I know. Can they also ask questions in the box?
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely.
an option?
Yeah, feel free.
That would be fun too.
Box if you're not comfortable on camera. But while we're waiting, I would love to just give a shout out to Blab. I'm a big fan of Blab, and that's why I decided to have this video series on here. I think it's just amazing technology just to be able to do, a chat room, a video chat room right in your browser, way easier than Google Hangouts. So
yeah, it is really easy. I like it too. I'm excited that you asked me to do this. This is my second Blab. I need to do a lot more. Yeah. And, there was something you were touching upon that kind of sparked this. It was a conversation I was having with my husband the other day, because most people don't have the kind of time and energy that I think I've focused on with all of this, going back to the idea of a coach or someone who's studying it. And it's like, I feel like I'm sort of a scientist or a financial philosopher in the amount of time that I've devoted to this area of life that most people kind of go running from. In my industry, what I noticed and what was so frustrating for me is I personally think that I went into the money business for a reason. I had a lot of healing that I needed to do, and I thought money was going to help me do that healing. And I think that a lot of people kind of follow the money trail, hoping that it will help them, and then ultimately one day realize, like, no amount of money is doing what I wanted it to do. Like, it's not satisfying me in the way that I had hoped it would. And so that's when people would want to find somebody like me who, focuses so much time and attention on it, mainly to figure out how do you get out of it. But it's just not something that you're going to sit around thinking about all the time. Yeah. Unless you're a little crazy.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. And I can see that, tell me if I'm off base, but I see that you have a really big vision for your business and spreading this work into the world. And I wonder if at some point you would want to coach other wealth advisors, other people in the financial industry.
It's come up several times, and I have helped some people who are advisors. One of the areas that I think is ready to be explored and really investigated is not necessarily the traditional advisors, which is what we know and what I was doing before, but how can we become more, help our clients become more educated in what's happening and become more of like a financial coach. There's not actually a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
And the model that exists today where you pay somebody for the amount of money that you have under assets under management, called AUM, it is pretty lucrative for people in the financial services industry. So it's hard to be willing to walk away from that and become a coach. And so people are really torn with, they like what I'm doing, they're intrigued by it, but they're also a little overwhelmed at how could I actually make enough money to replace what I'm doing while managing the assets. So I personally love, companies like Vanguard and some of these entities where they're focused on providing a full spectrum of services, but at a really, really low cost, But because I know so much about finance and investing, I'm comfortable going that route. Some people really need to have a one-on-one, personal relationship with an advisor, and that's great too. But I think it's important to explore all the options out there, and maybe you could find a person who does more coaching and educating versus just selling you something.
Right. And I can see that it would be scary for someone who's been backed by a bigger institution, to want to go and branch out on their own and be a solo entrepreneur. I mean, it's scary for anyone who's going to be an entrepreneur, but because, as you said, there aren't as many money coaches out there, they think they might be battling upstream to get people to believe that they have the credibility. Is that something that you think could be happening?
Yeah, I think it's just really tough for people to walk away from an income source that's reliable. And, typically people in advising positions do have a lot of education. They've worked really hard to get where they are. And so the idea that you're going to be more of an educator versus a person who's kind of taking care of everything for your clients, it's a whole paradigm shift. And so I think it's like a generation kind of change where I see a lot of millennials exploring how can they be a financial advisor, but they're doing it in different ways. They're more adventurous in trying different models than old people like me. No,
well, it's always like that, more younger people, more adventurous.
Yeah.
But okay, well, we still have the seat open. Anyone is willing to pop in the room, we would love to have you join us here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be on for another 10-15 minutes, so this is okay. We have a question.
Yay.
So Paula Brown says, would you consider a TED Talk about the older model versus the newer model of money advisor?
So Paula's great at tough questions. So would you consider a TED Talk? I think it's a great idea. Ooh, you're encouraging me to be a disruptor. I love it. I'm a disruptor, but I haven't taken on the financial services industry quite yet. When I first started, I felt like there was a lot of this like coming out kind of experience, like I'm free at last, having been in that environment for a long time. But I think that it's a great idea. I think that there's some thought that I would have to put into it, but I think that you definitely planted the seed in the idea, because I think that there's so much need. There's just so much need for people to take more personal responsibility with their money. And the problem is the whole chain is not constructed very well. So we don't start teaching children, right? I already said the seeds are already planted by 7. We start teaching kids, if they're lucky, we teach them at the last years of their high school experience. It's far too late if we're not teaching about money, and kids can actually understand banking and they can understand a lot of stuff by 7 or 8. And it should be part of the steady curriculum so that people aren't graduating from college and all of a sudden like, well, doesn't somebody just deposit money into my debit account and then I just draw it out? Like, you mean I have to I have to take care of everything. And not that people do that, probably, hopefully too much, but if you haven't been trained about all those other aspects early on, then it's a rough road. Like, I've really empowered my daughter, she's 18, to learn as much as she possibly can about personal responsibility with managing her different accounts. And so, my point is that it's like hard to educate, and encourage people to do something different when the population hasn't been trained to take on that level of responsibility. And so that's why that talk is a little challenging. Hopefully that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be one that you'll work up to, and take some bravery to stand there.
That's right.
So yeah, we're going to have opportunity for a couple other questions, but I figure while we're waiting for people to call in, and again, anyone watching, just go ahead and pop in the room. I'll accept your call. This might be a good time, Leisa, for you to tell people what you're up to and how they can find you, and how they can interact with you.
So a couple things I'm up to is wealthclinic.com is the website right now. We're actually working on a new website that's branded around my name and my coaching. But wealthclinic.com has a ton of resources, meditations, podcasts, a book. There's a book on the website that you can get access to that's about mindful wealth and kind of the 5 steps that you go through to become more mindful with your money. And I just finished another ebook that we'll be sending out really soon. And these are free. I think they're incredible seed planters. I'm kind of shocked that we don't have more people getting these books, because I've gotten great feedback that it's like, wow, this is like one place where I can really center my thoughts and create a plan. But the ebook that I just finished is all about the 7 ways that we self-sabotage when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And since I'm an entrepreneur, I can tell you all the ways that I've self-sabotaged. And I just created the buckets that actually tie into scarcity mindset. Oops, my propped up computer. So scarcity mindset is so fascinating, and I've been studying it for years. It's like, why in a country where we have huge wealth do we have women answering a survey that close to 50% of women in North America are fearful that they're 1 or 2 bad moves away from destitute poverty? So it's called bag lady syndrome.
Whoa.
It's I mean, in these calls, just in the past couple of days, I've had a few people, like, that was their number one issue. Wow. Is they're so afraid that something bad's going to happen and they're going to lose everything. And so why would we have a society with such wealth where close to 50% of women feel this way, and a pretty big number of men also feel this way? So diving into this mindset, it's not just money, it's scarcity of intelligence, it's scarcity of self-value, it's scarcity of time. And so those 7 buckets talk about these different levels of scarcity that lead up to the top one at the top of the pyramid is around...
the audio is breaking up a little bit, at least on my end.
Am I back?
Yeah, I think you're back.
Yay.
Yeah, it happens after we've been on a little while.
So the top of the pyramid with the scarcity, breaking free of the scarcity, is giving ourselves permission to have what it is that we most want in life. And so you're sort of working your way up. It's kind of fun. I'm really into it.
Oh, wow. I can't wait to read this book. I think every entrepreneur can identify with, some of the sabotaging tendencies you uncover as you're on the journey being an entrepreneur. And that's really one reason I wanted to bring you on, Leisa, is, for those small business owners, entrepreneurs who are just like, what is going on? I'm just trying to follow my passion and, start a business and serve the world, and then all of these things around money are really just in our face because we can't run a sustainable business without dealing with our money issues.
It's so true. And I think that's what I started to see. I kind of, when I finally had the breakthrough that it was around this scarcity mindset and how do we move beyond that into a place of abundance, like really move into a state of abundance. I looked at all the clients that I had been working with over the past few years, and I noticed that I had clients in every one of these buckets, and that typically we're not dealing with all 7 of them. We're dealing with like 1 or 2 at any given time that's really causing us some pain in our lives. And I just thought it was uncanny. So I went back to my clients and I said, will you write a vignette about what it feels like to be stuck in that place so that people can understand and relate to your story, And so it was just, it's been fascinating because, they're like, wow, I never thought of it, that way, that was the issue that I was dealing with. And I was like, I hadn't either, but now I'm seeing these trends. So some people are stuck in, there's never enough time. There's never enough time. There's never enough time. And, the cool thing is there's solutions to every one of those. Some of them are energetic, but a lot of them are also practical, that we need to stack wins and get success in different areas of our life in order to have confidence to be able to actually move out of that rut, these 7 ruts.
Wow. Fascinating. I could talk to you all night, Leisa. Well, so the ebook you said is going to be coming out soon.
So anyone who signs up for the ebook that I mentioned about mindful wealth, they'll be on my email list and they'll get updates about the podcasts and the different things that I'm up to. And I'm going to be sending that book out. I'm still finishing the editing, but it will be very, very soon, next couple weeks.
And what is the podcast for everyone in case they just want to go to iTunes right now?
Art of Mindful Wealth.com. Art of Mindful Wealth is the podcast on iTunes. Right now it's under philosophy, kind of move it into different areas. I'm just about to publish episodes 70 and 71. So just to give an idea of what's going on there, I am sort of showing my true loves, which is spiritual and self-understanding combined with money and finance, and bringing awareness to different ideas and different people that are out there. So today I launched a podcast with a man named Bill Holiday. He's also a certified financial planner like I am, and he is a socially responsible investing specialist. And at the same time, I launched a podcast around someone who's been through a lot of life struggle and just a beautiful human being, and really touched my heart when we met. And I asked him if we could interview because I knew he would share a lot of wisdom with people. So kind of mixing it up there.
Wow. Well, I've listened to several episodes. I don't know if I actually filled you in on each of those episodes, but I've always gotten some great nuggets. I love that you're introducing us to people we hadn't heard of, people who are doing really cool things and working in similar areas as you, but, taking different approaches to money coaching or investing. But I think it would be good for people to know you've interviewed some of the bigger names like T. Harv Eker and who are some of the other people.
Ducker and my friend David Ralph. I mean, what's really funny is these interviews have led into friendships. And so Harv Eker, we've become friends. We email each other. Like, I don't think he does that with very many people. He actually reached out to me a year and a half ago. And I was like, is this a joke? Like, why? I'm confused. And
I thought he was retired.
You need to hire somebody? I don't know. But it just became this really fun friendship. And it's really more like friends. Like I'm not, necessarily going and learning a lot about business stuff. It's just really a true kind of fun person to know and communicate with.
Wow. He definitely seems like a fun person to hang around.
Yeah, and it's fascinating too, right? Because this is an area that he really has owned. And in fact, I think you and I talked about him, because when I first started my company, people would be like, oh, isn't that what Harv Ecker's doing? And I'm like, no, definitely not. You know, I was really in my like Zen, like, no.
Yeah, well, focusing on your business.
I still had some lessons that I needed to learn. But also, I would say that there are many things that Harv and I do not agree on. And that's the beauty of it. And it's probably why he was even attracted to what I'm doing. Because if I was just saying the same thing he was, then I probably wouldn't be that interesting. But I'm not. I'm like blowing a whole bunch of stuff up. So kind of fun.
Yeah, and from my understanding, you did not attend his seminars before you went to meet him. So you were clearly focused on what you had to share with the world. Really cool, you know, from both angles, because I'm a big fan, as you know, of Harv, and I think that what he's done, getting in touch with you, it just shows, you know, looking at the world through the eyes of abundance. It's not about competition. It's like, how can we collaborate? How can we work together to further our mission?
And you just never know. You know, I think this is a true testament to, you know, we do our work. We really get clear on what we want, and we aren't necessarily in control of the outcome of what happens with it. Like, I don't know who's going to be drawn to the work that I do. I can have a good idea, but the people who show up, it's magical, in my opinion, when they find what I'm doing and it's at the perfect time in their life. You know, they're really, I think, ready to take things to a new level. You know, I think I've found that my experiences with money and really understanding how to make money and how to navigate all this stuff with money is something I downplayed it. I didn't give it enough credit. And in the coaching, you don't know. And then all of a sudden I'd start saying, well, I did that. And my husband and I have had a construction company since the early 90s. And I have been an entrepreneur for a really long time, even though I was working in the corporate world. And I just didn't give myself enough credit for it. But now it comes out.
Wow. Wow. Well, I am just so glad that you decided to come on, and I would love to have you back again. You know, there's just more that we can dive into. Just, I think it would be interesting for people to hear, you know, how you just kind of busted out of the gates and just started building your business, getting yourself visible out into the world. Not everyone who's had a business for 2 or 3 years is doing a podcast that's, you know, up there in the ranks on iTunes, etc. I'd also like to acknowledge you for stepping out on video, you know, being a filmmaker, being someone running a video production company. I know that that is not an easy thing to do as someone in the beginning stages of their being an entrepreneur. So I really commend you for that and want to keep
you know,
going.
What's so funny, I will mention on that real quick, is that in the beginning, it was all about like, ooh, I'm going to look so perfect and the lights and everything. And now if you look at my videos, most of them are out at the Red Rocks or at the beach. And I've got like no makeup on. And I'm just like, here we go. Let's do a meditation. So it's been really healthy for me to kind of just stand in that place of like, it's okay. It's okay to be natural. And yeah, you know, going out and putting makeup on a hiking trail is absolutely hideous, so it didn't fit.
Wow, that's so cool. And I think it is a progression, you know, feeling comfortable on camera, feeling comfortable getting yourself out there. Just a little bit earlier, this is sort of apropos to mention, I was putting us up on Snapchat. So, you know, always thinking about how to spread the message through social media, and things these days have gotten very meta, you know, so it's like we do Blab, but we're doing Snapchat at the same time. So just wanted to let you know, and everyone know that, you know, we're multitasking, and there's many ways you can get yourself out on video, and really it is just about being yourself, because I mean, Snapchat, it's like people are showing themselves. I don't know if you've been on Snapchat,
I watch my daughter.
Leisa.
That's about it.
Okay, yeah, it's mostly for younger people, but it's fascinating. People showing their life as they wake up in the morning and get out of bed. Like it's so much more authentic than Facebook and Instagram. I'm fascinated with it right now.
That's so good. And I love you mentioning PR because I do actually think that that is a big deal and it's worthy of a separate conversation because I've even had some pretty big realizations about the power, and a lot of people try to get PR and they try to get out there and they try to get covered. And I can tell being a podcaster, a lot of people are approaching me to be interviewed, and there is definitely a system to it. And because of my years in corporate, world and marketing and sales, I think that came naturally to me. But a lot of people, it's like new territory and they struggle a lot with getting noticed. And it's not that hard, but you just got to do some things, really well and consistently to be noticed.
Yes. Thank you for the C word, consistency. Absolutely. And I think I will take you up on that, to have that be a separate conversation. Because can't put my finger on it right now, but we could probably dive into like, how is that connected to money? The visibility, putting yourself out there, it's definitely all interconnected.
Totally. Yeah,
right?
Because promoting yourself is an issue of self-value, and yeah, that it takes a certain clearness to be able to do it, I think, and do it well. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, everyone, again, I put the link to Leisa's website, wealthclinic.com, in the comments. So for those of you watching on YouTube, feel free to go there, wealthclinic.com, and take up Leisa on her free laser coaching sessions if she has spots available. I know she has limited spots, and definitely check out her podcast, explore around the website, check out her new ebook when that comes out, and get on her newsletter list. And let's keep the conversation going. So I hope this info was helpful to all of you, and have a beautiful day. Thank you so much, Leisa, for joining us and taking time out of your day.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Sarah.
Thanks. Bye.